What's going on, everyone? Alexander Levine here, personal trainer with Ankylosing Spondylitis. I want to talk about some of the mistakes I've made over the years. I've made a lot of mistakes living with Ankylosing Spondylitis, a lot of mistakes that have really negatively affected my well-being, my health, and the way I've thought about Ankylosing Spondylitis. And I want to share these with you to hopefully help some of you not go down the same roads I've gone down. You know, I've obviously done a lot of things that have worked for me, but I want to get into some of the things that have really negatively impacted me and some of the things that no one will really tell you with this. So the first thing is, when I was first diagnosed, I held on to every statement, every word that health professionals told me. So every time I met with a doctor, physical therapist, rheumatologist, I held on to everything they said, word for word, whether they were saying you're going to have a really hard time doing some of these things, playing basketball, lifting heavy weights, or you're going to get worse as time goes on, or physical therapists telling me, oh my God, you have ankylosing spondylitis, that's horrible, your mobility is going to suffer incredibly, and well, that's just ankylosing spondylitis. So I held on to every word, and I couldn't shake it. I couldn't get rid of it. And it really negatively impacted my confidence with this. You have to be confident with this to stay healthy. You have to be confident that you can keep pushing forward, keep trying new things. You have to be confident in your health, whether your symptoms are, mild, severe. We still need to be confident that we can keep pushing forward and just trying everything we can. And I got into a lot of funks with this where I just didn't want to do anything. I said, well, what's the point? All these people are telling me it's just going to get worse. And that means nothing to me. Worse, better. I just want to try to stay healthy, keep doing everything I can. I tried to get rid of all that crap about getting worse because it's the least helpful thing. We need to strive to just keep being healthy, keep moving forward, keep trying new things, keep trying to keep our flexibility, getting stronger in any method that works for us. So try not to hold on to every word that every health professional tells you. Most of these people do not have ankylosing spondylitis. It's better to find it's important to go to the doctor and listen to all these things. Of course, it's good to hear from professionals, but you got to hear from people who have ankylosing spondylitis. You have to share similar circumstances and learn from them. So that's number one. Number two is going to be diet. Now, I was so hyper-focused on low starch, keto, low carb, and I was really hyper-focused on I can't have cheat meals or I'll feel terrible. If I eat too many carbs, I'll feel terrible. I have to do these things. I have to get better. And some of these things really did help me early on, going keto, lowering my carb count. But I was trying stuff like carnivore, which I'm a believer in. Everyone's diet's going to be different for them, right? Some of these things can work for people, but for me, I was hyper-focused and I lost the ability to enjoy food at all. I wasn't going out enjoying good meals in the beginning. I was so hyper-focused on my symptoms correlating with eating poorly. And as time went on, I had to be more flexible. But also, when I did stuff like keto and carnivore, my electrolyte imbalance was all off. My energy was all off. In the beginning, it helped me, but as time went on, my energy was gone. And the more I worked out and played basketball, I had a really hard time without the carbs, without the fruit, the vegetables, all these incredible nutrients. So I think the main point here is try not to get hyper-focused on diet. I think the most important thing is keeping a good weight is extremely important. I've talked about this in prior videos. When I went keto, carnivore, I actually gained weight, and that had a negative impact on me. So keeping a good weight, I think, is the most important thing. But also trying to, I think it's important to pinpoint, are any foods affecting you negatively? For me, over the years, I do think breads and too much sugar and too much processed foods, of course, are affecting me, but I found more balance with it. I definitely added in a ton more fruit and vegetables and not just eating low carb, and that really had a huge impact on me and actually started to feel a little better. But don't get hyper-focused on diet. I think that can just really, it can drive us nuts, and the stress level can be through the roof. And that's going to be number three. Stress with ankylosing spondylitis has a huge impact. So whenever I've gone through stressful periods in my life, my symptoms are always worse. And I'm like, oh my God, my AS is worse than it's ever been. And then time goes on and I realize, no, I was the most stressed I've ever been. And then I start feeding into my AS symptoms and I make it worse, right? The sleep is worse. When the sleep is bad with this, our symptoms are generally worse. So I think it's so important sometimes to just focus on our health and try to separate ankylosing spondylitis from our health, right? And again, just trying to keep a good weight, trying to sleep, trying to eat healthy, trying to exercise in ways that don't cause pain. Some of these things over time can have a huge influence, and reducing stress the best way you can, right? Going to be different for everyone, different breathing techniques. For me, I utilize the sauna a lot. I've utilized some cold therapy over the years, but I've tried to do things like the sauna where even if I'm not feeling great, the AS symptoms are bad that day, I can still get in the sauna. Obviously low impact, it's not stressing the joints. So just doing healthy behaviors that have no impact on the joints at all. And obviously meditation, huge for me over the years. So stress plays a huge role. So really try to do your best to find methods to decrease stress levels. It can mean so much. So feeding into that, number 4 is try not to get hyper focused on particular symptoms. For me, over the years, I've had different things where I'm like either sciatica or mid-back knot, a knot in my mid-back that gets aggravated, and I get really hyper-focused on it, and I'm like, again, this is the worst my ankylosing spondylitis has ever been. I had a knot in my kind of mid-back that was so tight and painful, and I was so aggravated trying to get it out. I was overstretching, and I kept on trying to get it out every day, and I was just so hyper focused on that area. The rest of the body meant nothing to me. I was like, I need to get this out. I don't know what's going on here. And I kept stretching it, overstretching it, so stressed about it, and it made it worse. I kept aggravating it, and the best method for me to get that pain out of the mid-back was just to relax and to do exercises that had nothing to do with it, just to regain balance in the body, do more core exercises, do more leg exercises. So in reality, this pain in my mid-back was really me just aggravating it. And I've gone through stuff like this over the years with sciatica, where my sciatica has been really bad and I've been hyper focused on it, and I've made it worse. I've tried to overstretch it. So I've tried to find methods where I can somehow try to relax during these times of increased symptoms and just try to do anything that doesn't make it worse, first of all, but just to bring more balance to the body and think about the whole body sometimes during these things. And then these things go away and, we move on to the next thing. But I think it's so important not to hyper focus on one area that's going on. We need to find methods that we can continuously do. And I get into a habit of just getting so stressed about a particular thing and forcing it. Forcefulness with ankylosing spondylitis, unfortunately, doesn't work. We need to find methods where we're relaxing the body and finding a little more zen, which is something that's hard for me to do as someone who, still tries to play basketball and lift weights. But for a lot of times, a lot of my movements are more gentle, and I'm trying to find methods where I'm relaxed, where I can build strength and flexibility. And that's where I use various methods for strength training and flexibility. Machines, resistance bands, it's not just about weights. It's not just about lifting heavy. Sometimes I lift a lot lighter if my body's just not feeling well. So I've tried to find methods for consistency just to keep exercising with this. So all these things kind of feed into the fact that what I started with by saying, you're just going to get worse, right? That was kind of drilled into my head early on. And when my symptoms were really bad, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I got worse. There we go. They were right. And this is the worst I've ever been. All that negative self-talk, whether or not your symptoms might be worse. But also, sometimes it just doesn't really matter, right? For this, I think we need to do our best just to stay healthy, to find different ways to stay healthy, and we can't give up. I think we need to stick with trying to eat a great diet for you that fuels the body, nourishes the body. Trying to keep a good weight with this is so important. So there's always things we can kind of work on when we're struggling with this. It's not just about one thing. It's about everything. Obviously, for those on medication, diet, exercise, stress levels. So I hope that's helpful. I hope, I think as time goes on with ankylosing spondylitis, things change. Things always change for me. Symptoms are always kind of up and down. You know, I had a day last week where I was supposed to play in a league basketball game, and I just felt horrible beforehand. So I was laying on my back, and I was like, I don't think I can go tonight. And then I started to really get in my head about it. I was like, man, I might need to quit basketball, right? I started going to the worst case scenario. I was like, I need to quit. There's no way I can do this. And I just started to do some different exercises at home, felt a little better, went to the game, played the best game I've played in probably years. I don't know why, but I think I just sometimes can get in my head about symptoms. And then sometimes I'm like doing incredibly well with this. You know, I've been able to stay with sports and exercise, but a lot of this has been, what I'm trying to say is a lot of this has been the balance of trying not to feed into everything so much and just keeping going, doing things that I can consistently do. Some days it's going to look different. Some days you're not going to go full throttle. On the days you feel better, maybe you can do a little more, and that's how we build over time. We find different methods. Hope that's helpful. Let me know in the comments from you guys. What are some things that you think are mistakes that you've made over the years? You know, and I hate to use the term mistakes, but some things that you think you could have done a little differently that really impacted you. How can we help others with this? How can we help others with ankylosing spondylitis find relief, keep their flexibility, get stronger, and just stay healthy? That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to keep going with this. See you next time.